Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to do something a little different than I normally do. I've been getting a lot of questions and comments and email to me from my viewers just asking me general questions and my thoughts on things. So today I'm going to do my first Q&A video, and I'm going to pick 3 questions from one of my longtime viewers, Andrew. He sent me an email with a bunch of questions, and kind of for my first Q&A, I wanted to start out with kind of 3 that I thought were kind of fun questions. So without further ado, let's jump into my first Q&A video. All right, guys, so let's jump into some of these questions. The first question actually was, in my opinion, what are the best and worst baseball teams of all time? For the best team of all time, simple answer, it's the Yankees. But let's get into specific years and talk about different teams over different years. So again, in my opinion, the 1927 Yankees are the greatest team of all time. They had 114-44 record. They went 4-0 in the postseason, obviously winning the World Series. Their slash line for a team that year, they had a 307 team batting average, a 384 on base percentage, and a 488 slugging percentage as a team. In my opinion, the second best team of all time are the 1998 Yankees. They went 114-48. They went 11-2 in the postseason. They were absolutely dominant team. They're probably from any team that I've seen play since I've been alive. They're for sure that was the most dominant team I've ever seen. Their slash line was a 288 batting average, a 364 on base, and a 460 slugging. Third place is the 1939 Yankees with a 106-45 record. They went 4-0 in the postseason. Their slash line of a 287 batting average, a 374 on base, and a 451 slugging. And then number 4 all time is the 1975 Reds, the Big Red Machine, where they went 108-54. They went 7-3 in the postseason. They did a 271 team batting average, 353 on base percentage, and a 401 slugging. And then the 5th best team, in my opinion, of all time is the 1907 Cubs, the 107-45 record. They went 4-0 in the postseason. Their slash line isn't fantastic. It's a 250 batting average, a 318 on base, and a 311 slugging. But what made them make this list for me, not only was that record insane, but their average team ERA for the season in 1907 was a 1.73. Think about that. That's insane. If one pitcher pitched us 173 these days, they would lead the league by a lot in most seasons, right? And in 1907, the entire Cubs pitching staff had an average ERA of a 1.73. So on to the second part of the question, which are what are, in my opinion, the worst teams of all time. So from the worst teams of all time, looking into, the best, there's a lot of things that go into it, right? The 27 Yankees, they had, it's Murderers Row, Gehrig and Ruth. They had the 98 Yankees, had just an incredible team. The 39 Yankees, led by DiMaggio. So the 75 Reds, right? You had Tony Perez, you had Pete Rose, Joe Morgan, Johnny Bench, right? Insane team. It's not just their win-loss record or their postseason record or their slash line, but just the dominance of the teams themselves and the players on the teams. That's what kind of got me those top 5. For the worst teams, it's hard to say, hey, these are the worst players. So this is more of a statistical thing, like purely statistical, right? So based on win-loss record, the worst team of all time is the 1916 A's with a 36-177 record. So it's a 235 winning percentage. The second worst team of all time is the 1935 Braves. Even with Babe Ruth on the team, they went 38-115 with a 248 win percentage. The third worst team of all time, sorry Mookie, it's the 1962 Mets that went 40-120 with a 250 win percentage. Fourth worst, the 1904 Senators with 38-113 with a 252 win-loss percentage. And the 5th worst team of all time, the 1919 A's, which is the second time on the short list that A's team was on there. They went 36-104 with a 257 win-loss percentage. So as a side note, some things don't always change. So over 100 years later, the 2023 A's were one of the worst teams in modern history with a 50-112 record. So the A's, obviously they've had good years, But based on this, I think the A's are probably, they're probably down the list of the best teams of all time. So those are my thoughts on what are the best teams of all time, what are the worst teams of all time. Again, the best I took, it was primarily statistical with, a couple of kind of Darren gut feeling, additions in there to kind of rank them versus the worst teams. I just took the worst records. The next question are, who are the best players not in the Hall of Fame, and do I think they should be there? So there's a couple different groups that I put these players in. So there's the PED guys, and I think the best PED players not in the Hall of Fame because they took PEDs, Bonds, Clemens, and A-Rod, right? I think, don't have to dive too deep as to why. Bonds, one of the greatest hitters of all time, one of the best overall players of all time. Even without the PEDs, he would have been one of the greatest of all time. But with them, he was just an absolute beast. Clemens, one of the greatest pitchers of all time, again, wouldn't have needed the PEDs to still be considered one of the greatest pitchers of all time. But he took the PEDs and it let him pitch longer and recover faster. So, but both of those guys, absolutely insane. And then A-Rod, Alex Rodriguez, I think is my third PED guy that I think, if the winds ever shift, should be in the Hall of Fame. It's absolutely dominant offensively. The next set of players not in the Hall of Fame are the gamblers. So the two that I think should be in the Hall of Fame, the PED guys, you can make the argument that they cheated. The gamblers, they didn't cheat, right? Worst case scenario, worst case, and there's not a whole lot of proof that this even happened with either one of them. Their cheating would have made them perform worse in certain scenarios, and there's no real proof of that. So Pete Rose, obviously, I think should be in the Hall of Fame. All-time hit leader, right? So absolutely he should be there. And then Shoeless Joe Jackson, one of the greatest hitters of all time, the guy that Babe Ruth modeled his swing after, third highest career batting average of all time at 356, right? I think he should be there as well. And then I've got my list of the non-PED, non-gamblers. These are just guys that aren't in the Hall of Fame that, based on, some recent inductions, I think resetting the bar, I think the following guys, I think, should be in the Hall of Fame. So Don Mattingly, over a 14-year career, he had over 1,000 runs scored, over 2,000 hits, and over 1,000 RBIs. He batted over 300 for his career, and he won an MVP award. And if there's any question about whether or not his offensive stats warrant being in the Hall of Fame, compare his offensive numbers to Hall of Famer Joe Mauer. The next player that I think should be in the Hall of Fame and is not is Curt Schilling. So he's the only non-PED using eligible 3,000 strikeout club member not in the Hall of Fame. And he's not there for, I think we could all agree that he's not there because people just don't like him. And I'm not a huge Curt Schilling fan at all. But I think, if being an asshole counts against you, there's a lot of guys in the Hall of Fame already that, shouldn't be there. So I don't think that should count against him. And I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. Next up, this one's for my buddy Jeff, Dale Murphy. He's a two-time MVP. He had 1,197 runs scored in his career, over 2,000 hits, almost 400 home runs. He had 1,266 RBIs, and he's just a great all-around player. And I don't know why he's not there when other players that aren't nearly as good are in the Hall of Fame. And then lastly on my list of best players not in the Hall of Fame, Smokey Joe Wood. He didn't play for a long time, but he did play long enough to technically get in the Hall of Fame. He played 11 seasons. He had a .672 win percentage for his career, which puts him 15th all time. He had a 2.03 ERA, which puts him 5th all time. He had over 20 wins twice, including 34 wins in 1912. He only gave up 10 home runs in his career, and even back in the dead ball era, that's still pretty impressive. And he was a 3-time World Series champ. So those are the guys that I think, depending upon the PED guys, like I said, how the winds shift with that over time, I think those guys may or may not get in. I think that, performance-wise, all three of them deserve to be there. If you took out the PEDs, Bonds and Clemens, I think, absolutely still deserve to be there. It's tough to say with A-Rod. You don't know. He might have been taking steroids since he was like 10 years old. Who knows? But the Gamblers, Rose and Joe Jackson, I think they should absolutely be in there. And then the non-PED guys, non-gamblers that I mentioned, I think all of them have career statistics that more than warrant being in the Hall of Fame, especially when you look at the new, much lower bar that's been set over the last decade. And then the third question that I'm going to answer today in my Q&A are, what are my 5 favorite baseball movies? So my 5 favorite baseball movies in order are Field of Dreams, my favorite baseball movie of all time. I remember watching this as a kid with my parents. I think the story's great, and I think it's just an awesome movie. And you gotta love Kevin Costner in baseball movies. I think that's kind of his forte. My second favorite baseball movie, Pride of the Yankees. I'm a huge Lou Gehrig fan. I think it's a fantastic movie. I think the overall, just the movie itself, the acting, the story, just absolutely amazing, and I absolutely love that movie. Third favorite, Bull Durham. Again, the second Kevin Costner movie on the list. I love Bull Durham because to me, it's more of like it's a hilarious movie, but it's a little bit more raw movie about, obviously the minor leagues. All these other movies, they're more focused on major league players. Bull Durham is, I like the story of, the new guy trying to work his way up to the bigs, and the old timer who was in the show for a little bit and then came back down to the minors, and he's just trying to play out the rest of his career in the minors just for no reason other than he just loves playing baseball. I think this story is just a great story, and the movie's hilarious. So that's my third favorite. My fourth favorite baseball movie is 42. I love Jackie Robinson, and Jackie Robinson's story I think is a very important story. And I think in general, the movie is a great movie. And I think for people that, especially these days where people tend to read less and watch more stuff on TV and on the internet, if you want to learn about Jackie Robinson, check out 42. It's a great movie. And then my fifth favorite is Major League, because it's hilarious and is probably the first baseball movie I remember seeing as a kid. I just love it. I love the characters in it. There's just so many great one-liners in it. Just in general, Major League is, I think, an awesome baseball movie. So there you have it, guys. Those are my answers to my first Q&A from my viewers. All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope I didn't upset anybody with, my best and worst teams or the folks that I think should be in the Hall of Fame, and hopefully I didn't offend anybody with my with my video picks. But I hope you guys enjoyed. If you like that and you have questions, please feel free to either email me or just put in the comments some questions, and I'll do some more Q&A videos if you guys like it. So I hope you enjoyed. If you like the video and you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. If you are subscribed, I appreciate your subscription. I'll talk to you guys later.